Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And joining us for the first time in over 150 recordings,
I mean,
Megan is back on the show.
Hi, Megan. But to the listeners, like 6 months or something like that, because we did. We did the time.
Oh, yeah. The time stories were recently released in all of their glory.
Yeah, but we
Which glory being a relative
we had
term.
a hard. Be warned. This was recorded in the early days.
Indeed. Almost in the first 5 episodes worth?
Yeah,
Probably.
So like 90 plus episodes ago.
I'm pretty sure we still had the goblet at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yes. We've very rarely referenced the goblet.
Yeah, the microphone goblet.
I don't even know what the goblet is.
You remember when we recorded? Because one of us was in the Nalgene, the microphone was stuck in the Nalgene,
Yeah.
and the other one, the microphone was stuck in the goblet because
Yeah.
we had no mic stands.
Uh-huh.
So we have the microphone goblet.
No one had to hold it.
When I hopefully when Megan and I get a new house and we own it and we can do things with it, and I can actually hopefully get an actual studio, one of the shelves of podcast memorabilia will have to be the goblet. And I think the Nalgene is lost to time now. I've lost so many Nalgenes.
I guarantee you
It's
lost
probably
that
still
somewhere.
on a train in Morocco or
Sounds
something.
about right.
But the goblet at least is still around.
You can always replace the Nalgene.
Yeah.
The goblet, however,
Yes.
irreplaceable.
So it has been for us almost 2 years, like a year and a half, since Megan has sat down to do an episode with us. So we're really excited to have Megan back in the room.
She just has to withstand us sitting in this room recording
Yeah.
on a weekly basis.
Yes,
Not in the same room with us.
She at least gets to be in the other room and
not pay
turn
attention
on
to
the
us.
TV and
Watch.
drone us out.
Yeah, now that
Net-
you've moved into the other room, I'm not banished from making any noise at all.
There's no more curtain.
Yep. Oh, not
Megan,
the
we're
cur-
closing the curtain. Please be quiet. As you may have guessed from the title, this is another Mile High Game Guys Ruins episode, which means it's a full spoiler episode. And this is for Time Stories' third module, A Prophecy of Dragons. And so we are finally getting back to talking about Time Stories things because we finally got to play them.
Again.
Yes.
because the Mark called us out on it.
Well, I mean, we've been wanting to do this for a while, but Mark calling us out
Fast-tracked
also
it.
fast-tracked it.
Really, him calling us out on a lot of things has fast-tracked us on quite a few things.
So like,
Yeah.
oh, people notice when we don't actually do the things we
Yeah.
say we're going to do.
Thank you for noticing our bullshit.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
So we're back to doing Time Stories. And the other important thing to note with this episode is we are recording this in advance because next week, when you're listening to this, the week you're listening to this, Megan and I are in Jackson and having a blast in Jackson.
Mississippi?
No.
Wyoming.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Okay.
This is very different
that's
than
a
Jackson,
much
Mississippi.
different place.
Jackson Hole. We're going to Jackson Hole. Really, we're going to Tetons. We're going to go do some canoeing and camping, and
Kayaking?
it'll be more canoeing than
Canoeing.
kayaking.
Okay.
Probably
You
canoeing.
have a kayak.
She
though.
does have a
But
kayak.
it's a river kayak, and
Okay.
we're going to be on probably lakes instead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Dumbass.
Yeah,
you
fuck-
can't
fuck
use
me.
river kayaks on a lake.
Oh,
my
it's real
God.
hard. They don't go
Ah,
straight.
no, I-
They're not meant to go straight.
Look at me, the giant asshole in
Yes.
this conversation.
So because I'm going to be gone, the stretch of time we're going to be gone for this trip, there's really not a lot of options for doing episodes. And so it worked out to play this, record this, and it's what you're going to listen to. But
So
that
no
means there's
feedback.
No feed. There's
Yeah.
not a BGG thread for this one, so unfortunately, people don't get to chime in advance. This was all kind of helter skelter as Megan and I planned our trip, and we were like, "Oh shit, I'm going to be gone. What can we do?"
For
Let's do
a lot
this.
of days. Yeah.
We will put one when this is released.
Yes,
So
there will
you
still
can,
be
you can have
thread,
a
but it'll
reaction
be the
or
follow-up.
just follow up. Yeah.
How much you love us. That's really what it's for.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Or how much you disagree with our opinions of Prophecy of Dragons.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate, this is Mile High Game Guys Ruins. It's a full spoiler episode. So if you have not played Prophecy of Dragons and you care about knowing what is under cards and where to go and what to do and who's bullshit and what's not bullshit, stop listening now. Turn it off. Go play Prophecy of Dragons. Then come back to this. And
Put that
hopefully enjoy.
cardboard VHS right in that Time Stories box.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So Time Stories of Prophecy of Dragons, as we mentioned, is the third module in the Time Stories game system. Yep. It was released in 2016, designed by Manuel Rozoy. Artists are Vincent Dutrait and Pascal Quidalt. Published by Space Cowboys. It plays 2 to 4 players and takes 90 to 180 minutes
Per session. Yeah.
Per session.
per session. Sure. Zach, do you have a rules rundown for us? Or
No.
No.
there's no
It's like
rules
other time stories, except there's magic.
This is very important.
Yes.
Magic is important.
Magic is very important.
Yes. So yeah, there's no rules explanation. I meant to say Zach did a rules explanation back in the first one. If you feel like putting up with very bad audio quality,
Some may, some might not.
yeah. But hopefully, if you're listening at this point to the third Time Stories one, maybe you have a vague idea of Time Stories and how it plays. So let's talk a little bit about our initial thoughts going into Prophecy of Dragons. So we had played the initial one, which is Asylum, and then we played the Marcy case, which is Time Stories with Time Stories with Zombies. And now we are on to Time Stories of Prophecy of Dragons. Megan, let's get you talking on the show here. What were your initial thoughts going into this play of Prophecy of Dragons?
Well, I was excited to finally be playing Time Stories again. The first 2 were a whole bunch of fun, so I was excited to get into it again. It's kind of weird because we played it 2 years ago, but it's
Basically 2 years
been
ago.
so long that's like I don't really remember what goes on. So I was mostly excited to play a game of Time Stories again.
Right on. Jeff, how about you?
I have incorrectly remembered things from the yonder years. I generally got like, oh, we saw that again, and it was interesting, but going into it, there was only a very limited knowledge I even remember at all from Time Stories. But I think we all sort of threw in sort of like what we very, very vaguely remembered from the old playthroughs.
Yeah, there's definitely a little meta getting thrown around, but I don't think it did us much good.
No,
No.
not
In
at
fact,
all.
Some would say it even hurt us.
Probably hurt us.
This guy's super important. Oh, the thing that we learned was something we already knew.
Oh, I remember that.
So Zach, what about you? What was your thoughts going into Prophecy of Dragons?
So this last one was just the fact that we get to finally start it again. But I remember the first time I was excited because I really liked the first one, and I really liked the second one too. And
this seemed like a very different.
Yeah, well, because it takes place in alternate time instead of real time or whatever they call it. And then it's, for me at least, the fact that it had to do with magic and like fantasy and stuff like that. I was like,
D&D.
Yeah, I was
the
like,
setting.
I'm not that setting wise. I wasn't that interested in it as much as the first 2,
Right on.
especially the first one. So, but I was still interested because I've liked all of them so far. So,
Okay, for me, I was excited for the most recent play to be getting back to Time Stories again, kind of similar to everybody around the table. It's like, oh, old friend, you're back again.
These people we sit around a table and record with every week.
Yeah. So
Or your girlfriend.
So it was nice getting to play Time Stories again. I was a little back at the first time we played Prophecy of Dragons. I was a little bit nervous because although I loved the theme of Marcy Case, it didn't play as smooth as I felt it could have. And then this one going hard fantasy and changing everything made me a little nervous about like how they were going to do that. Where the other ones where granted the Marcy Case was zombies, this one, so that's already a stretch. It's not like they're sticking in real things, but I don't know. I was a little nervous, but I was excited for another adventure, I guess. Components. There's not much to talk about for any of these for components. Basically, it's a whole bunch of cards. They're good quality cards, like all the cards in Time Stories. The big thing to mention is that, as is the case, they continue to do different art styles.
yes.
For them. So Megan, what did you think about the art style for Prophecy of Dragons?
Well, they definitely, I feel like you could feel the magic theme in them. A lot of like flashing lights and bright colors. I don't know. It was art.
Indeed it was. Yeah, I know for me, like I don't typically, as long as the art isn't atrociously bad, like, if it was stick figures, I'd have been like, dude, this art's real bad. But they put at least effort into it, and so it's like, hey, it's art.
Well, and I think part of the problem with this most recent playthrough is the fact that we had already played through it once, so we weren't like, ooh, what's this new thing that's coming out? We were like, all right, we're at the old dock again. Let's just, where's that fucking fairy at? Is it not over? Like, I don't like, we weren't every time a new card like thing, we weren't like sort of taking it in or anything, which I felt like we sort of did on all the first playthroughs.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably a really good point.
But I do like you said, it was Vincent Dutrait, and I'm a big fan of his art, and I think he does a great job with these. They're definitely a lot more colorful and fantasy-esque. That like I think it does that well.
Yes.
Versus whereas Marcy Case did the zombie theme well, it was more muted and stuff like that. I'm glad that they went full color on. Like, I'm pretty sure that contrast is like really up there.
Oh yeah, they cranked the contrast way up on the cards.
Do we know what other art this guy's done before?
Vincent Dutrait? Yeah, he did Raptor. He did Alexandria. He's done a whole bunch of stuff.
It just very reminds me of 3rd edition D&D.
Okay.
Where it kind of went from that like classic 90s sort of D&D coloring and stuff like that, and brought it into like very similar to this, just bright, bold colors, lines. He
did Rising 5 as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very understandable by playing this game.
Did Robinson Crusoe and Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Adventure card game. He's done a lot.
I've not played the adventure card game, but I have played Crusoe.
Yeah.
And I can see where all this comes through. Super bright, bold colors. Like every card in this, like even if it's a minuscule like one-off card, the art that's on here is fantastic. It's well worth reading what the card actually does, but spend a second and actually look at what's on the card.
Yeah.
And Pascal, the other artist for this, he did, for reference, Splendor, Hit Zeroed, Elysium, and Mythic Battles Pantheon. So he's also done a lot of
great stuff.
Yeah.
And
especially Hit Zeroed.
I think that really all shows in the art.
Yeah. And this one is definitely far different from the previous two in its art style, which we've said before, but this, like, it has to be said again. Like, this is like no match for the art style that has been on either of the other two.
Yeah, which is good. I'm glad that they continue to it doesn't feel like they're sort of retreading. It's every time like we're in a new setting, a new style of of theme, go heavy into that.
Yeah.
It makes it feel like a new game, like not just like the same game with different pictures.
Yes.
It makes it feel much more like a completely new game, which helps, I think, with the continued scenarios that you go through. It makes each one more fresh. So I think the extra art kind of helps a lot with that.
I can agree with that. Yeah,
Definitely.
It's like putting a new tape in the VCR.
I think that pretty much wraps up everything there is to talk about components.
Because it's just
small
cards.
boxes full of cards.
there is one box or one bag, I guess now. The mystery one, because usually it just came in a deck that you would just play with the entire thing. This one was like a mystery one. It's don't open this until you're supposed to, because it's really a part 2.
Yeah,
Basically, yeah.
which is a nice thing that they've changed up.
I when it first come up, I was like, "Ooh, what's the mystery?"
Ooh.
Right on. So let's move on and talk about the main part of this that everybody probably gives a crap about, which is the actual gameplay. So how does Prophecy of Dragons actually play as a Time Stories mission? So this one, the one thing I want to start right off is talking about the characters.
Yes.
Because this one, for me, broke an immersion thing that I'd created for myself, which was never really, I don't think, part of the game. It was just like some headcanon I had made up where I was trying to role play the characters. Whereas this one made it, initially, it was a negative for me. I was like, this kind of takes me out of it because it feels weird that all of a sudden we're jumping like one moment I'm the dwarf and the next one I'm the fighter. It was like, well, duh, like, because I'm not them. I'm me in their bodies.
Yes.
So really, I shouldn't be like, what's the dwarf going to do? What's the elf going to do?
It's what
am I going to do?
Yeah.
The dwarf's going to buy a warhammer.
Yes, he is.
And then play whack-a-mole.
But this one, the classes are definitely important.
Yes.
Very important.
I would say a lot more so than the previous ones.
I don't directly I don't distinctly remember any like specific character only spots in any of the previous adventures.
There definitely was.
In
Like
the
Marcy Case, like there was a guy who was like a good at like guns and like fighting zombies, and then there were like people who were good at other like people.
Well, is there only specific spots they could go to though?
Oh, you know, I don't remember.
I don't think so.
I remember there was some in the asylum that was like only only females can go here and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
But
was like the female dorm or something.
But-
no, it wasn't that. It was it was that creepy guy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah.
But no, I think this one definitely, because it's a fantasy one and, character classes and stuff is very important in those. I felt like you felt that in this because all of the characters felt like, the warrior, you were a warrior. You felt like smashing things. The thief can steal things from people. The assassins, he's a lot better if he works alone and stuff like that. So I felt they did a good job of having each of the characters feel distinct in that way.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
And then there were some spots where it's like the halfling can go because he's small, or like the ranger because he knew about the forest and stuff. That there were a lot of spots that I remember that first time we play. Like you go to a new location and you're like, oh, this spot has a ranger thing. None of us are rangers. All right, well, we'll just
Remember that for next time.
Yeah, remember that for next time. And so every rerun, basically, we'd be like, oh, I remember seeing this thing, so let's try the ranger, or let's try the warrior. Or it was, oh, we should try and do heavy on the assassins, or heavy on the melee, or heavy on the magic this time.
Yeah.
So it came a lot more of you had a lot more switching of the characters around, trying to figure out the best way you want to do things, where I felt like that wasn't as much the case in the previous two, especially with Marcy. I believe there were only 4 characters.
Mhm.
It just determined which one you were. This one, there are a lot of extra characters you could be.
Yes.
A lot of options.
Yes.
Which in the heavy spoilers portion of this, that paid off well because there was so much of that experimenting and like going back and trying different characters in different situations. You run through the first part of this like 3 or 4 times. So this one doesn't have a fail if you don't finish it in 3 runs, like I think one of the other ones did, like maybe
Yes.
Marcy.
It was like the third one was like you have as much time as you need, but then
It's all score based at
yes,
the end.
yeah.
and this one at the end they didn't knock you for
Time
multiple
spent.
playthroughs.
No. Well, because it was basically, like I was saying, it's a part 2 that it was take as much, as many times as you have to get to that part 2 part. And
Yes.
then they sort of scored you better on that one.
Yeah.
But
And then even once you got to that like checkpoint,
it was a
if
checkpoint.
you realized that you had messed up,
Mhm.
you could still choose to go all the way back
But no,
and
thank you.
run through that again. But for us, I know by the time we actually hit the checkpoint, we had min-maxed the shit out of that. We were optimizing everything but
To
die rolls.
Megan's annoyance, I
A
believe.
little bit, yeah.
It was dragging on a little
Yeah,
bit.
I liked
little
at one
bit.
point we were like, okay, let's what all the stuff we want, and Megan's just like,
Who needs coins where?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just-
Megan's like, can we just assume that we all figured that shit out and just buy the things we need to buy?
yes, that is
We're
way
like-
faster.
Okay,
You make a valid point.
but don't you know how much we just like yelling at each other, Megan?
I learned many years ago. Yes.
So
So the first half. Let's
Mhm.
go over the
Yes,
first half.
Yes. So overall, so you start off in this one. You
First
pick your characters.
75%, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
You start off in a tavern,
Mhm.
and
As is tradition.
Yes.
as is often the case in high fantasy D&D type scenarios, and there's immediately some options of where you can go.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to the shadowy figure in the corner. You can go to the barmaid
Yeah.
who's well proportioned, I believe is how they phrased it.
Yeah. One thing I really liked is that you went to talk to the guy in the corner and you're like, oh, like you came back from talking with him and you're like, oh, he's our contact. We have to have all these glyphs and stuff like that to try and stop this person. And I went to the barmaid and I was like, I bought some underwear.
They weren't her underwear.
No.
to be
They
fair.
were a collector's series of leopard print briefs.
Yeah, thrown from some musician
Mhm.
at a concert.
Yeah.
I had gambled
And
most
lost.
of my money away.
Yeah.
First
Super
run
lost her
through
money.
right out the gate. Jeff's like, "Yeah, I'll gamble my money and then lose it all."
Yeah. It's double or nothing, man.
Can't wait to go back.
You got the nothing.
I did indeed.
Can't wait to tell Bob about your failure. He'll be so disappointed that you were gambling.
Bob is the guy that kind of overarching runs all of the time stories.
Yes.
He's the consistent, like, wherever we come from is, and he's just got the best faces.
Yeah.
He's briefing you, and then you don't make it in a run, and you come back, and he's just so disappointed.
Mhm.
Or kind of weird and squinty.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Bob.
Mhm.
It's a great name, though.
Yes.
Yeah. So you start off in the tavern, and then from there you get to kind of explore town. There's a marketplace. There's the docks. There's the woods outside of town. There's like the palace gates. The,
Castle gates.
Yep.
castle gates.
And you have you have those ones where you're like, oh, this guy wants us to go in a corner. Let's go talk to him, and he just talks about nothing. Or it's, oh, let's go talk with this woman real quick, and she sets a bunch of people on us, and you have to fight her, and you're trapped there.
Mhm.
So you had all those sort of red herrings and traps and stuff that are common with this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I feel like this one wasn't as brutal with any of the traps. Like there was only really a couple places that were useless to go
Yes.
to, where you'd like waste time or money or things.
And even some things you thought were useless were just like, it's like a very specific thing. It works out, but otherwise,
yeah. So
like the underwear, one of the encounters is the guy's like, hey, do you have that underwear? And if you do, you can sell it for a lot of money.
yes.
But if you don't get that one encounter, then
But
you're
there's
just,
like 10 cards
Exactly.
in that deck.
And so you're-
you only get cards out of that deck if you roll a 1 or 3 in between your time spent
Yeah.
in moving between locations.
so at most we'd see 2 or 3. And so
Yeah.
you'd have a lot of times where, like, if you didn't get that one card, you didn't know that was not useless.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of times you'd get stuff and you're like, I hope this works out.
In my last playthrough, I was rolling a lot of 1s,
Yes.
which was very useful.
Mhm.
But then you would end up with encounters that are like, everyone loses 3 money,
Yep.
and other brutal options.
hmm
The encounters are kind of a mixed bag. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. Some of them are like good if you do good. Some are, and then bad if you like. There was an archery contest where if I'd failed, I'd have lost health and the group would have lost money. But because I won, we got money. Hooray.
Yep.
Other
You know,
times it's
they're
definitely
encounters like anything else.
brigands. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like even some of the ones like the lady who sells you drugs and then makes you fight, when you win that fight, you get a key.
Yes.
And that key then opens up a different area.
Yes.
Like, it's not an area like you can totally not go that route because there's definitely multiple branching paths that all lead back.
Yeah. Because the other ones tended to be a lot of, it had this different ways you could go, but it was still sort of linear-esque.
Yeah.
But this one definitely has like, there's a lot of ways because you have to end up finding tunnels underneath. Like all roads lead to the tunnels underneath the castle. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it, and that's how you built your
At least 4 different ways.
and how you built your
Yeah.
party determined sort of which way you wanted to go.
Yes. Which is one of those things you kind of pick up as you do multiple runs
Exactly.
through. We didn't play enough of them to experience all of the ways. So the 2 we didn't really go down.
We experienced a little bit of all of them, I think.
Well,
No,
the
we
wizard-
haven't
the
done-
wizard
Magic.
one, we only saw that 2 magicians are needed to open,
And we never
Okay.
had 2 magicians.
and
Gotcha.
we never did that. We opened the spy thief route, the
Mhm.
assassin thief route, which is like you have like 3 checks that are on you. You arrange 3
Mhm.
cards and it makes a weird zigzag, and you pick the way you want to go, and you have to do checks to move along.
I want to say that's the one we did like 2 years ago. That sounds very familiar. That we actually made it all the way to the end of that.
That I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we made.
I don't
it.
think we made
I
it through the tunnels after we got there, but I
Mhm.
think we went through that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Then there's the combat way, which if you have one of the 2 combat people, you can go talk to. You think you're talking to the Fighters Guild,
Mhm.
really you're just walking into a trap where you're going to get beat up, or hopefully beat people up. And then you find a house that's ransacked and murdered, and hey, if this guy who you met before the fight survives the fight, now you know where the tunnels are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sorry, this was a dead end.
hmm
Thankfully, we went very fighter heavy in this one,
Yeah.
and we're able to do that.
Yes.
Everyone seemed really just wanting to smash things.
We went very smashy.
We definitely
Yes.
did.
I definitely had my smashy dwarf warrior that had the critical hit skill to where if I rolled 5 stars, I would just instantly murder whatever the hell I was
And we
fighting.
basically had a running trend of it. He would smash their head in, but the head would be fine. It just It's in their cab. The
It
chest
was like
cavity.
a turtle.
Yeah, turtle.
It just smashed it right into them.
Yeah. So
Uh,
really, you destroyed their heart and their lungs.
yeah, as their skull, like a shotgun blast,
Yeah.
blasted into their
Mhm.
torso.
Yes.
in case it wasn't gruesome enough.
Yeah, no. This is not a bright world.
No.
Colors deceiving.
yes.
Yeah.
And then the fourth main path to the tunnels is you can, in one of the marketplaces, there's a guy who's selling this little fairy in a cage.
Yep.
And you buy it, and then it has you draw another card. It's like, oh, hey, you freed me. Now find the 3 fairies that are hidden in the background art of this game.
They're not really hidden.
They're not that hidden.
They're not well hidden, but
No.
you do have to go around to different
Exactly,
spots
yes.
and find where those spots are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think they're well hidden until you see the first one, and you're like, oh no, I can clearly see that that's
Yeah.
a fairy.
Yeah,
It's
once
spending
you're looking for them, you'll see them.
Yes.
it's spending time going to different places to find them.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then that opens up. Once you find all 3, you go to the woods, and they're like, oh, you have all the fairies. Here's the path directly to the tunnels.
Yeah.
So that one you waste time going around finding the fairies, but there's no fighting checks,
Mhm.
no, skill checks for.
It's literally the check is pointing and touching the card.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's where basically that's where I said trying to figure out what classes you want to do is like which way do you want to do it, which we definitely spent like some time, like we did the fairy earlier and then we decided to just do the warrior one. We looked at the thief one and we're like, we're not going to do this one.
We'd have to go real heavy in that.
Yeah.
And
That one seemed the most prone to dice screwing you.
Yes.
Yeah.
the most
it's-
random.
Just hard checks.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
At least the combat one, you can fight. Like you might not. It
There
might
are
take a little
checks,
bit
but
more time.
you make advancements
Mhm.
on each of those.
Yes, and then it seemed the most efficient way to get all 3 of the glyphs, which we
Yeah.
haven't talked about, because once you get to that well or to the chamber of like portals, for every glyph you have, you can do a different portal card.
Something,
2 of them are
something,
dead ends.
Chamber
one
of
of them is
Secrets.
the way.
Yep.
So if you have all 3, you're guaranteed you're going to find the way. You might hit the 2 bad ones first, which will waste a bunch of your time,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have a dwarf with low agility who keeps getting
To be fair,
caught in blade traps.
we hit the other 2, and I just whack-a-moled both of them in a row. Like, all right, instantly dead, instantly dead.
yes.
Which was fantastic, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But so it is a What?
I just want to say throughout the time, every time we had to reset, Adrian was just like, Jeff, just choose somebody else, please.
No,
And, yeah.
no. I'm going to choose Mr. Whack-a-Mole.
After
We'll come back to this at the very end, by the way.
after all because the first time through Jeff was like the gnome, and that's when
There
we
was like,
remembered the gnome.
oh, wait, this is not useful.
Well, because we remembered, it's like, oh yeah, we need this guy at this one spot to get something, and then what it was is they told us about the fairy thing, which
we had already done in every way, shape, and
I had
form.
already finished that one,
Yeah.
and we had remembered, like that was one of the meta things you're talking about. Is I still remembered it. I was at the scroll guy, and I was like, I remember this fairy guy is important. It leads us somewhere.
Yeah. We didn't remember where the fairies were.
Yeah.
I spent way too long poring back over the
Mhm.
art, like how well hidden are these fairies?
And then we went to the marketplace, or not the marketplace, the Castle Plaza, and we're like, oh, fucking fairy right there. Super easy to see.
Yeah, so we did multiple runs through this. I pretty much was always the elf archer. Megan, you did a couple different characters.
I did the Healy magic chick and then the paladin. None of them were particularly exciting. The paladin had a nice reroll 1 dice, which
Yeah.
I think was actually quite useful
Yes,
in the
it
end.
definitely.
it saved us in the
A
end.
whole lot more useful. I didn't the Healy magic elf thing.
Mhm.
I didn't think she was a very good character, really.
None of us were exhausted at any point during
Yeah,
the.
and
No,
yeah,
we got
scenario.
very
nobody
close
died.
at the very, very end,
yeah,
but
it was that we
we
it
were about
was
to
the
die in
end.
about 4 ways. Anyway.
Well, and I want to say
Yeah.
through this various runs, we were like, man, these magic characters are annoying. Let's just go like full heavy melee and ranged, but like physical attacks.
No
Yeah.
magic.
It's
at all.
fine.
It's
Everything's
fine.
okay. I'm sure we won't need magic some point. Very importantly in the future. It's okay.
It's
Balanced
fine.
parties are for chumps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we could have all been bards, obviously I would have wanted that, but it was not an option.
Yes. Unfortunately, no bards.
No.
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 So after 4 or 5
4.
rounds through 4.
4,
It took 4 to get to part 2.
Yeah.
which is one more time than our 2 years ago run.
Yeah.
I think it took us
we got it in
3.
3.
Which is it when you get to the end, it's one of 3 options, and you just sort of have to randomly select the right one.
Yeah.
And then you have to swim,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
which is a dexterity check.
Which is fine for like most people, unless you are
Except
the
for your
dwarf.
dwarf.
Yes. And like at one point, it took me 5 rolls, and each time you have to have 2 successes, and each time you don't finish, it's a time unit.
Mhm.
And I think that failed us at least twice.
At least
Yeah,
twice.
yes.
Yeah.
Which is where I was like, for the love of God, not the dwarf.
And
again.
then so we're just like, we'll just buy him the potion of
There's
water
a
breathing.
potion of water breathing you can just buy and just be like, boom, done. And I was done first. Everyone else took forever. Jeez.
Because we didn't have a fucking potion to easy mode it.
Roll a
Yeah.
check.
Everyone else just sucked, clearly, as well.
I'm glad
Clearly.
Megan remembered to give you the potion of water breathing before we
Yeah.
That would have been awkward.
I still think that going the ferry route is the quickest route to get into the tunnels, because every of the 3 other ways to get in, there's like a middle step to get to the tunnels. Whereas if you do the ferries and you go to the places you have to go anyway to get these glyphs,
Yeah.
you get the glyphs, you find the ferries, and then you can get through the tunnel. So I definitely think the ferry route is
Yeah.
the quickest way to go.
I think it's definitely the quickest if you get all 3 glyphs.
Well, no,
too.
because
But you can-
magic orb,
You can get the magic orb
Crystal
and a glyph,
ball.
Yes.
the crystal ball,
and
yeah.
then you
Yes.
don't have to
And
go
2
up to the
glyphs.
plaza steps.
Yes.
Because then you really only
Well,
need
no, you
2
have to go to the
glyphs.
plaza because that's where one of the
fairies is.
fairies is.
So you do still have to, because the fairies,
Yeah.
again, spoilers, are in the plaza, the inn, and the woods.
It's like 98, 103, 108, something
Yes.
like that.
Okay.
So unfortunately, you do still have to go to the plaza, but you don't have to do anything there.
Just have to roll a die and then roll another die.
Yeah.
But I do agree, especially if you get that crystal ball, because then when you get to the pick 3, you look with the crystal ball like, okay, this is either the one or it's not the one.
Yeah.
And then if it's not, then you're down to 50-50 and you have 2 tries at it, so you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
Um.
But then you need to have that's 5 for
least
the
2
crystal
glyphs.
ball, and then you have to have 14 or 7. So you have to have 14 for the fairy. It's pretty money heavy
Yes.
Mhm.
that you can't spend on equipping yourself for later, especially for part 2.
Especially if you run into a specific encounter where you can lose money.
Yeah,
and-
well, I remember the first run, and even the second run, like we were pretty low on items when we would attempt to go to the tunnel.
Yeah.
And so I know for 3 and 4, we were definitely like, all right, we need like this is also when we started min-maxing. It's like, all right, we need to go to the Lost Woods to get a bunch of shit. Go to the marketplace, to
sell all the
or no,
Because
herbs.
in
go to
round
the
2 is
castle.
when you notice, like, oh, you can buy or
sell.
sell
Yes.
Yeah.
these like herbs, I guess,
Components?
that the
Components.
mages used.
But yeah, that was
for
part of the
magic.
thing because we did not have any magical people. We were like, none of this shit fucking matters.
Now,
Just so much money.
I'm just going to roll 5 dice and fuck all y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, sell it all for
Yeah.
what was it, like 28 money?
I
that one
had
turn?
28 money.
21 and 28 money. Yeah.
And we're like, we can buy everything.
And that's when we were trying to be like, all right, we need to split the money up before we go to the next area so we can all buy the right things. And Megan was like, can we just pretend that we spent an hour doing this and just look at all the cards?
Well, this was after we spent probably 15 minutes discussing
on
our,
this,
like,
and
third
we
or fourth
still
time
hadn't
through it.
Yeah.
figured it out.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, guys, we can spend another 15 minutes doing this and do it, get it figured out, or we can just go and buy the stuff we need because this is our 4th time, and I'm over it.
Yeah, that 4 runs through
Mhm.
the
And-
first portion of the game.
Important to note that we cheesed it a little bit on some of the things like that on this second time because we knew we had beaten this previously.
Yeah.
So we were more trying to.
We weren't laying out all the cards and reading out the intro
No,
card, and then we knew where everything was. And
Yeah.
Just be like, just plop, plop, plop. After at least the first run.
Yeah, yes,
of
after
this,
the
'cause
first run.
we didn't know what the
Yeah.
vast majority was of after the first run,
Yeah.
but we did 4 of this first portion of the game.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then we finally hit the well. We finally
So we went
succeed
fighter.
swimming.
We went the fightery
We
route.
went the fighter route. We got
Um,
all 3 glyphs.
Yep.
Which
we crystal balled
Mhm.
into the portcullis,
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
50-50 directly into the
Great.
Mm-hmm.
great, and then got to the well. Jeff used his water potion.
Everyone else crushed the swimming
Yep.
test.
Yep. and so we got through, and then you get through, and it's like, oh, hey, there's an update from back home, and there's things that are going crazy, and so we're giving you a checkpoint, and you bust out some new rules that explain how saving at that point works if you want to restart from right after the well.
Yeah.
And there's a whole
Basically-
sheet for that.
Yeah. And they give you 25, like they give you a lot more time. So it's basically like another run of a new thing.
Yeah. Like a whole Time Stories 2.
Yeah. Well, because on this one, the first part, it was 25 time units. And I felt like the last ones were like 35 or so. Like you had a
Well,
lot more.
No, so when you get that card,
Mhm. No, I'm saying for the other two
oh,
adventures,
yeah.
where it was like 35 or 40, you had a lot more time.
Yes,
But that's because it was the entire thing, whereas this one was for part one.
yes, and then once you get through that well, part of that mission, the cards they give you, one of them says add 25 more time units to whatever you have left. So if you could get through that early, you could start with, if you get there through with 10, you'd have 35 time units.
Yeah.
It's quite a
then
bit.
You roll a die,
3
you
die.
you roll 4 die, and add those successes as time units as well. So you can really ramp your time back up at that point, to have plenty of time to solve that second part.
Yep. But you basically get rid of all the other cards that aren't
Components.
Yeah, all
period.
everything that isn't the items you have right now.
Mhm.
Because you're in this new place. It's all
Wipe the board.
mystically and-
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like upside down staircases and bullshit.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then you come out in a whole new little courtyard. And
Yeah,
You're
so-
choosing new regions.
So you wipe the map, which is the first time I've seen this do at all. Like you've always kind of like replaced the cards that give you new locations and stuff, but you wipe, period.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of like choose an area to start in.
Yeah. And it's 4 areas.
Mhm.
So, you have, I guess, a 25% chance of doing them in the right order. Maybe it's slightly
starting in
less,
the
of
right order,
starting
at
in the
least.
right
Yeah.
order. Yeah.
We got the one.
we were
that-
off by 1.
Yeah, we did the one that didn't help at all. Basically, we
was
went to. It was
The
to. It was
last place.
yeah. It was the
first.
last place you're supposed to go, and it's just like you need a password, and we're like, all right, we know we need a password.
Yeah. Yeah, which is knowledgeable. You can't fight the thing.
No.
Because it's basically like, no.
If you even think about finding it, it would destroy you.
It's basically filled with cannons.
Yes, it's cannons filled with cannons.
Yeah.
I
It's
believe-
cannons that shoot cannons that then shoot bullets.
I think the card says the number of cannons pointed at each of you. So you're each just faced with an overwhelming amount of cannons. Would make it folly. Jester wanted to fight it because he was like, my dwarf, if I roll
I just
5,
rolled.
it
I
kills it
rolled
right
5
away,
stars
right?
and it's instantly dead. Which is why I like my dwarf character. I haven't gone into my character much,
Mhm.
but it's his ability was 4 combat dice. We got the Warhammer that gives him a 5th, and he adds a damage when he rolls. So I got 5 dice. If I have 5 stars, whatever I hit, instantaneously dead. Doesn't matter what the hell it is.
Yep.
And realistically, with the dice the way they are,
Two like skulls against you, a blank, 2 1s, and a 2.
Mhm.
yes. So rolling 5 die, you're statistically likely to have 5 or more stars.
Which had
So-
come up more than once.
Mhm.
And even if I roll 4, I get +1 damage and do 5 damage anyways. But I don't instantly kill it.
which will kill a lot of things.
Most things
Yeah.
that we were fighting.
Yeah.
So yeah, the dwarf is very powerful. Unfortunately,
Min-max.
he's balanced by the fact that he has a 1 agility, and there are a lot of agility
Like,
checks in this.
That swim to get into the second half of the game is like mandatory.
Yeah, and it's,
There's no way to get
I'm
past
pretty
it.
sure that potion of water breathing is like for the dwarf.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
pretty
100%
sure.
what it's for.
Yeah, because even I think the paladin's the next lowest on the agility.
He probably even has 2.
and it's
Yeah,
2,
two.
and
Yeah.
you can re-roll 1.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's 2 with a re-roll, which makes it much more likely that it'll be
Yeah.
like 2 rolls.
The
max.
assassin had 4, and the ranger had 5.
5,
So
yeah.
we were heavy in the agility.
Yeah. So we made it to the second half.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the dwarf wanted to attack the giant cannon
Yep.
beast, but did not. Because of the laser field that was in the way.
Yes. And then again, even in the second half, there's not many red herrings. There's not many dead ends.
It was more of, well, okay, you talk to this guy, you need this thing. All right, let's go somewhere else. And then eventually, like, oh, I found the thing that we need. Let's go back. And
Yep.
that gave us something else.
Did we
And
go to all 4 spots?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once Adrian realized that he gave me the wrong card, we had the password that we needed.
Was there anything useful in the archives?
Yes. That's where we got we had to give the form to the guy.
No?
No, we got the form from
That's
there.
where we got the form.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we gave the form in the library,
hmm
and then we got the head.
Because there was the portal room that we got the form.
So you technically, I don't think, need to go to the kitchens at all. I think you could avoid the kitchens.
No, that's where we got.
That's
That's where
where
we got announced, and getting announced let us get.
That was the head in a jar.
because that let Megan get the cube. That's where we realized we had fucked up. And
When we got announced, not
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, because we got announced, and then it was like you have the 4 gray cubes, and you were like,
No.
"Oh, I saw that on that card." We went back, and you were
we
like,
got
"Okay."
the head. Who
Now we
gives
get
you
card
the
21,
cube?
and we were like, "Where's card 21?" And we realized that was the card that Zach had gotten.
That
we
I
were
was
like-
supposed to get, but you gave me 17 and 19 instead of 17 and 21. Like I told
so
you.
whatever.
To give
We
me.
realized that the cards got messed up, but you
Yes.
didn't tell me.
I did
correctly.
100% told you that.
Bullshit. Anyway, so that corrected our. But ultimately, if you gave the right cards at the right times, I don't think you actually ever need to go to the kitchens.
Yeah.
The kitchens are the biggest red.
Oh no,
herring
no,
there.
you can
You can
if you want to heal, you can
it's
eat,
good. It's a good place to
Indeed.
heal right before,
and then
and then you're mute.
then you're mute.
And
then you just
everybody
don't
who
talk
healed
anymore.
Is mute. Everybody
And
who
what
goes
sucks is that
eats.
Adrian was originally going to eat there, and he didn't.
I'm so glad.
Jeff did because we bought condiments way back when, and we're like, obviously this is what condiments.
Condiments
is
have
for.
to be used for something,
No,
right?
no.
In no way, shape, or form has any of the cards ever referenced condiments
Yep.
in any way, shape, or form.
But then when you get silenced, only someone can magic you, or you take damage. And we did end up getting things.
There-
No, I got that magic amulet from the archives.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying we did get something from the. Oh, okay.
The kitchen's the one we don't need to go
That's
to.
the one you
The
said.
archives we absolutely had to go to.
Yes.
That- We also got the password in the
Yes.
archives. You get the password and that amulet
Mhm.
because it's basically to protect you
What-
from our
No, I got the book from
situation.
the library because the book had the password in it. The amulet I got from archives. Anyway, whatever.
We,
it doesn't
we had a
matter.
form that we
Oh.
handed to a man that gave us the book that
Yep.
had the password that
Yes.
had like a bunch of stuff in it.
Yes.
Okay.
But
There was a series of events.
Yes, and then Jeff was silent because he ate.
I ate food.
Yep.
And I walked away, and it disappeared, and
Mhm.
then I couldn't talk anymore.
and it was you had to do something to magic, which those magic amulet and the book let you do magic
Even if you
Tests
tests, even if you couldn't before.
because we had 0 of that.
Yeah, and so we decided to stack those. And originally, Adrian wanted to eat the food, and had we let him do that, then as the magic person, I was 100% never going to let him talk again until he took damage.
Which is easy in this game, to be
Yes.
fair, but
Yes,
which is a
Well,
nice
no,
thing that they put
you
in there.
if we had waited for you to take damage before we unmuted you, you wouldn't have talked until the final battle.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is fine because
Uh-huh.
it wasn't very far off
No.
in what was happening.
but that would. I'm just saying it'd have been nice.
It would have been especially painful for me because I super like reading the cards.
Yes.
I like reading things out loud and doing like tones.
You can read them, you just can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you see,
express it with your
exactly.
face,
See,
Adrian.
yeah. So thankfully, it wasn't me. It was Jeff, and then Zach fairly promptly. healed him.
About halfway through. I was like, okay, we're not taking any damage anytime soon.
Yeah.
All right, fine, Jeff.
Um,
Which
There-
you only got these magic abilities from the various items we found in this last portion.
Exactly.
there are some interesting puzzles in the second half. There's not a lot of puzzles in the first half. It's more like just finding things. But that second portion, there's a gear puzzle where you have a card and it has 3 different options for the pattern you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand how gears work, which as somebody who worked in an engine room in the Navy and who made gears for a living, I understand how gears work.
I was going to let you do that one. I was also silenced at the time,
Yeah.
so
Oh man, I really wish you'd have been silenced during that, just to see you we're like, oh, let's try and figure it out, and just see him his face just burning red. You just
At
trying
some
to.
point, if you'd continued to
Uh-huh.
refuse to silence me, I would have just sat back and be like, all right, fine, we'll just fucking be here all night. If you're going to,
it's over.
I think you guys could have figured it out. It's not it's not a hard puzzle.
Yeah.
But it's 3 options. You just have to be able to track across the options where it's going to move the dial, choose the option, and then they tell you which card to take.
Yes.
You could just not do it and guess randomly, because because it's just taking time. So you could be like,
Mhm.
all right, we'll do the second one. Hey, look at item 52. Oh, no, that's not right. Waste of time. All right, we'll do number 1. Oh, that's right or not right,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. So you don't actually have to solve that puzzle. But that opens a gate to the dungeon, and the dungeon's where things get wonky. It's like a 6-card.
It's unique.
Yeah.
Even more unique.
Yeah, it's a maze
Yep.
done
It's
in card form.
yeah, that has various
Skips.
dead ends and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
like-
which the things that we bought in the beginning helped us because that's where it's like, oh, you can do spells to help us get across, or you can do a grappling hook, or you can just jump across, or like when you found
Fire quenching
yeah,
potions.
exactly, or when you found the map to the dungeon.
Oh yeah, that helped.
You were
Yeah.
most important in the entirety of this dungeon exploration. You had 2 of the
You had the fire and the map.
I mean, yeah, it helped.
yeah.
I don't know if that was the most important.
I would say at least 50% important.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll go 50%.
But in this maze thing, we had encounters where you would just you'd encounter random people or mimics and chests. But then you also had vortexes, which were little spots where you would go through random points in time.
Time and space.
Like one, we fought ninjas by
In-
Mount Fuji.
yeah.
And then we were in ancient Egypt, and it was so hot we all just lost a health.
Yep. And
It's
then
like,
also,
fuck, Egypt is hot. And I'm going to slip my wrist a little bit.
and I like how the cards say, like they sort of say where you are. And one point we just are in the middle of the ocean, like
Yeah.
deep, and it just goes
It's just underwater.
blurg, blurg, blurg.
Warble garble.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's the encounters that are other like people lost in this random maze via time and space.
Mhm.
And you run into people from the very first time, like the base time story.
Mhm.
Well, he referenced. He's like, I'm trying to find.
Dr. Halsbeck or something like that.
the flower.
Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever. Hyacinth, yes.
Hyacinth, that's what it is.
But like throughout the deck, there's other like there's modern military
Mhm.
people lost in the deck, and it's super interesting
Mhm.
of what you can find there. So not all encounters are bad. Some are fighting, some are not. Some are neutral.
Yeah.
It's sort of all. It's like every encounter ever. It could be good. It could be bad. It could
Mhm.
be nothing.
Yeah, some of the vortexes are like neutral.
Yeah.
I don't. We didn't see any that were positive on our
No.
play. They all kind of hurt at least some
Tests
of us.
or instant damage
Yeah.
or
But,
combat.
Yeah.
I just whack-a-mole some
Yep.
ninjas.
Mhm.
But we made it through on our first
Mhm.
try.
Well, and one thing I do like is that it didn't happen to us, but there are definitely parts where it's like, because it's revealed, piecemeal, that at some point, like you could be like, the way you're going is like, oh no, this is a dead end. Now we have to go back, which luckily movement in this was not.
movement was free.
Movement was free. It's like, oh, we had to just go back and do
Yeah.
other things. But
We just didn't choose the right direction.
yeah, but that's
Yeah.
where having all those extra things helped a lot.
The cards in this specific part are the most interesting thing I've seen in Time Stories.
Mhm.
And it's another area where your party composition is going to greatly affect how you progress through this.
Yes.
Like how many checks you're doing, how many encounters or vortexes, how you're going to progress. And the maze it's 6 cards, but you only put out 5 of them. So it's
And it's in a random order too.
yes. So
So
it's going to
there's
change
Variability.
Yeah.
quite a bit every time.
Yes. And then we did fudge like one thing or so just because it was like, oh, you can use a potion of leaping to get across this, and it's like, well, we have this scroll of leaping. Can't we just also use this?
Because there was nothing that referenced
It didn't
using the scroll of leaping is either you can use a grappling hook or the potion
Yeah.
of leaping. They're like, well, what's the point of the scroll of leaping?
Mhm.
There's nothing that.
So we're just like,
So
if
we
we can
figured
use a
it's the
potion
same,
for
yeah.
this.
I think it was just the scroll we only got in this last part, and it wasn't in the first part.
Yeah.
I think you
Maybe.
can buy it, can't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think it just came from because we got it from like the book
Yeah.
Dude or whatever.
But
in
I
the
mean, it
second
says on
half.
it you can use it to cross a chasm.
Yes,
which is
but
the exact same thing that the grappling hook and the potion.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
he-
it never said like chasm. It just had 2 spots, and it's like potion
I
can
think
show
over
you.
on the reference card,
Oh,
it
okay.
showed that the jumping spots and said chasms.
Oh,
and
well, I
said
didn't
about
see
how
that.
you could
Well,
do those.
But because there was the jumping spot was the chasm, but then there was like the special spot, like my map spot, that had the potion of leaping that kind of lets you bypass it.
True, and we did fudge it there.
Mhm.
Fudgy the Whale.
Because we
Well,
had
we just
scrolls
said-
of leaping
yeah,
and not potions
Exactly.
of
That's
leaping.
what, yeah. We weren't like, oh, let's just go past this. We were like, you know, scroll of
Referencing
le-
what items we
exactly.
had.
Scroll of leaping equals potion of leaping in our eyes.
Yeah,
So,
and this is where all of that previous preparation really came to.
exactly.
And where I wish there was more of that in the game
Uh-huh.
than this one specific spot, because
Right.
you had to get past the laser gate and get the password and all that stuff. And then there's just kind of this one,
Well, and so you got a lot of stuff, and you're like, I don't know if this is useful or not,
yeah,
because
and
like we thought it was like, oh, for like the warrior thing, we'll have to use them, and no, you just have to fight people.
yeah.
Oh, for the thief thing, you have to. No, you just have to.
Yeah, like for 85%
Mhm.
of the game, you're building up to this, and then it's only kind of like a wink and a smile,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
it's over.
Yeah.
I wish there was more
Mm-hmm.
to like that stuff
Yeah.
in this one, because it seemed so important.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
But then when we got through that,
we got through it.
But
and
through it
then,
on the first try.
and then we got the
And then you're at the final boss.
final boss,
and his 4 henchmen.
the League of Doom esque people, the
Ye-
Saiyans, as we like to call them.
Yeah, so there's like some like end like main boss people that are kind of like our adversaries,
Anti-time agents.
anti-time
In-
agents in this.
the like Time Stories universe, not just Prophecy.
Yes.
of
No.
Dragons.
Yes. Exactly.
It's like SYAAN.
Saiyans, as we call them.
Yeah, we can call them Saiyans.
We're hoping they don't go super.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'd be bad for us.
But it's going to take them a while to get to super.
They gotta
so
get really angry.
yeah, if we-
Krillin's gotta explode.
if you see their hands go up, you're like, I've got like 5 hours before anything happens.
I've got at least 4 episodes
Yeah,
before something happens.
exactly.
Megan, I don't think you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z. Have
We're
you?
referencing
No.
Dragon Ball.
To be fair, I've never watched it either. I just have nerdy enough friends that I've through osmosis.
Osmosis, even.
Osmosis.
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 Whatever. I've just absorbed.
Megan,
it's
are you familiar
osmosis
with
because you guys are all
osmosis?
assholes.
Yeah.
Or osmosis.
It's osmosis.
Oh, look at that.
Yes, I mispronounced a word. Shocker.
Do we have podcast vote? That's like 3-1 on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't- Fuck you guys. Anyway, I've picked up that's a Dragon Ball Z
Reference.
that Going Saiyan takes entire episodes where they're just sitting there going,
just the first time.
Yeah, it's obscene.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
anyhow,
The final chamber.
Mhm.
yes.
Doctor Strange is there.
Yeah.
World War II man.
Yeah.
A troll.
Yeah. What I
It
like
really is a motley
yeah.
crew.
Yeah.
and so obviously Jeff being our heavy hitter, we're like, Jeff, go attack the main bad guy. He goes there, bad guy's immediately like, and you're frozen.
Stasis bubble. You can't do anything until someone frees you or I'm dead.
and you had to use magic to free him, and
Which
so-
no one had
except for me with my magical items.
with bonus items.
yeah, and so I was like, oh, fine, because the
So we
World War
spend
II
a
guy.
ti-
Yeah,
So we spend a time unit just like you run away or
Mhm.
whatever, and everyone else kind of fights their dude they're up against.
I clear the bubble, and then
So the mechanic behind this room is there's the evil wizardy mage guy, and you have to go to the center spot and roll successes against a time rift
you have to roll magic successes.
magic successes. If you roll any blanks, they're locked. I find it very what's the
Escape.
the Arkham Horror dice game,
Oh.
Elder sign.
Elder Sign.
Yes, the lock dice on that. Yeah,
Where you have to lock dice in there. And as you murder his like fellow Doctor Strange and trolls, you can unlock those dice. But we didn't know that until the very end.
because we didn't go to the rift until
We killed 4 of the 5 bad guys
Yeah.
before we went to the rift.
Basically. So we Zach comes and saves me. Other people are murdering other people. I critical hit the end boss, which I get 5 successes and just instantly turtle
Yep.
whack-a-mole the end boss.
and I like how the card's like his eyes roll back and Jeff goes, but we can't see this because it's
His head is in his torso right
Yeah.
now.
and then he screams, but Jeff goes, oh, but he's muffled because it's in his torso.
his final boss death speech. We just didn't hear any of it.
and then the body collapses.
Yeah, so then on the next one, Zach goes to the rift.
To the end goal of the game.
I'm like, oh, let's go to the rift now because you guys
Very-
are fighting the last spot.
Very Mountains of Madness-esque.
Yeah.
We learn what the actual goal of what
Yeah.
this
And
scenario
it's like,
is.
oh, we have to roll 9 successes, magic only. I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm here. All right, let's start. Roll 4 dice. I get 1 skull and 3 blanks. And I'm like, oh, no.
Half of our dice locked.
Yeah,
Well,
there's-
and you guys were talking about like,
Wait,
let's
how
go-
many dice did Zach say were in the game?
6.
And then at some point, someone said 8 or 10 dice
I
were
think
in the
8
game.
were said at one point,
Yeah.
but it was definitely only 6.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, you locked half our dice.
Yeah.
And
Well-
we have to have 9 successes.
And these guys wanted to kill that last minion first. And I was like, no, let me roll. I'm sure like 1 die will get locked, and then you kill him, and that die will get unlocked.
we have finally realized that killing them unlocks dice.
Yeah, and we're like, I roll 4, 3 blanks, and I'm like, oh god damn it.
And we should mention that all of the encounters on their like non-combat
Mhm.
side have just an extra damage on them. If you're not encountering
At
them,
least one.
they
Some
will.
of them have 2.
Yeah, some have 2. That they will damage the party or
well,
whoever.
they add to the reposts.
Yeah,
So
they're kind of like
yeah.
very much like Blood Bowl.
Mhm.
They're like assists.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why you had spread out.
Yes. And so Megan and I went over to kill the other guy.
Mhm.
You rolled locked 3.
Yep.
We killed him, got 1 back.
Yep.
You rolled 4, locked 1 or 2.
I
on that
locked
roll?
1,
Yep.
and then I was like, I only have 3 dice left, and I was like, well, let's at least split it up. So I gave 1 to Megan because you get
She
to
had
reroll.
Because I can reroll.
Yeah, and we're like, oh, we fucking should have just given it to her in the beginning.
So then
Yes.
Megan, you rolled, and what'd you roll on your first time rolling 2 dice?
2 or 3. I had
I
like
think you rolled
1.
3.
I had
Yeah.
1
Yeah.
good roll, and the other were junk.
And then I rolled, and then I got another skull and another blank die.
Locked another die.
Locked another one, and
So
so,
we're locked at
I
4.
threw the book towards Adrian, and I was like, I am done rolling these.
So we're sitting here, and we're down to like 2 time. I'm down to 1 health,
Yeah.
and we have 2 dice left, and both Megan and I can now roll 2 dice.
Because
And
we need
have
9 successes total on this
and
final
at this point
goal.
we'd gotten down to well no, because Megan had gotten 3, so we had 6 successes. We still
I got
needed.
one. I got one.
You got one?
I got one.
So,
I
so
think
we
you
were
got
at
one
5. We'll
It
count
locked
as
half our
5.
dice.
Yeah. All right.
Megan
What
rolled
did you do besides instant kill the boss, Jeff?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Besides that.
Besides that,
Jeff, I
Ignore
think you
the main-
slacked a little bit. in
Yeah,
this-
you know.
You didn't
A
try and
little
close that
bit.
rift at all.
No, I just sort of murdered the fuck out of that last boss.
I mean,
that had
the
a lot
whole-
of shit.
You were just
You
moving
just
his head up and
distracted.
down. There's a turtle.
just jerking him. Just jerking him. Super jerk.
Yeah.
Just
What is even happening?
Mhm.
super jerk.
Yep.
No one's seen Batman where he
Yep.
Batman versus
No.
Superman.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Super jerk.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
Not.
All right.
That's a nice emphasis with the glass.
Yeah.
So we're down to 5. We need 5 successes. Megan rolls and uses her reroll and gets 2. I roll and get 2, and then Megan rolls and gets nothing. Or no, because we were down to 2 at the last one. So it was my turn, the last time unit of the game,
Mhm.
with 2 left.
We were racing against time and locked
Yeah,
dice
like
at
this was
point.
like this roll we either win or we lose
Yep.
on this last roll.
And
we only had one chance.
Mhm.
And we got it.
And I rolled it.
Yep.
I actually succeeded at 2 dice rolls to finish the game in the most clutch fashion I've ever been with dice.
well, that's why I gave it to you, because I was like, obviously the dice hate me, so they're just gonna be like, let's go to the opposite. Let's go to Adrian. So I was like,
yeah,
We'll
I
certainly
took it-
find out
'cause
about.
You threw it vaguely in like it was like closer to me, but also kind of between me and Jeff. And I took it and I was like, sure, I'll do this. And then I immediately went, wait, why the fuck am I doing this? But then I succeeded. And so it was nice. And so we won with
Yes.
literally the last possible
mhm.
die roll of the game. We won. And we super won because Jeff whack-a-moled the final boss.
Yes, I did. He was very confused at the end, especially after the jerking.
Yeah.
We discovered that the Saiyans are also like taking over receptacles in
Yes.
like that we're fighting against.
Because the
So-
wizard guy just collapsed,
and he was like, "Who? What? What's going on?" And then
but he was
A turtle.
yeah,
he was
a turtle. so
Turtle Man, and he was like, "Why can I see my own ribcage?"
Yeah.
And then he died.
Yeah.
So there's some story. What I'm saying, there's some story building up in the game in general.
Yeah.
Yes, and this one was one of the first ones where we really see more of that. So that there's a greater world a story within the stories. They're not just pure standalones. There is a continuing arc.
Yes.
And then we learned, so at the end of all of these, there's always been like a general score that you get. And then we've learned that nothing you do in the beginning half of this scenario matters in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
no.
but
Killing bad guys.
except for killing bad guys.
Murder, gold,
Mhm.
and components.
Yeah.
But they don't matter that much.
No.
Clearly, the warrior way is the best way
Yes.
because you murder the most.
Yeah.
We get like the warrior mage.
You have the warrior and
And
then
throw
have
'em
one,
out
have
there.
one mage.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely, in retrospect, have a magic user.
Yeah.
Not just agility, strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a well-balanced party at all.
No one said you needed it
No.
until now,
Yes.
at the end.
So that's pretty much, I think that covers all of how you play this particular scenario and the actual story of the scenario
Yes.
and the story of us playing the scenario.
Indeed.
With all of that covered, I think we could talk some final thoughts here and kind of wrap things up. So let's start again with you, Megan. I'm going to start all of these with you. So what do you think?
So she's just off the cuff, has no idea what everyone else
Was
thinks.
just so happy to be at the end, but this was like the one that like this is taking forever. I'm done. Like I was very excited to start it, and then just as it like kept dragging on,
You were very
and
excited
on,
to end it.
I was very excited to end it. It that having to go through that first one so many times, even though like once you get to the end, it's hard to get through that first part. Like
Yeah,
it's really hard to get through that first part. And just having to do it so many times.
It's definitely
over
where the
and
most
over
game
and over.
is.
Yeah.
Well, the most time.
Of this story.
Yes.
So that was kind of like a frustrating thing that kind of put a little mar on my enjoyment in the end. I was like, it took 4 hours at least. But I still like time stories, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Because like I said, everyone is feels like a completely different kind of game with like full similar in the base. So I'm looking for the next one, but I don't think it was my favorite that we've done so far.
Okay.
What was your favorite?
I don't even remember now. I like
Zombies?
the Insane Asylum.
Okay, the
I
first one.
liked the first one.
Base game.
The base game was
Yeah.
good. I think I remember liking that one.
Right on. Was there anything in this one that you found particularly interesting or that drew you in or kind of pushed you away, like aside from the fact that, yeah, it took forever?
No, not specifically. I thought the maze thing was kind of cool. I thought it was really interesting how there was so many different ways to do the same thing to get to the same spot. But then it's also like I like to see everything that's in the game, which is usually not the best way to play time stories. Like
No,
flip
it's-
all the things. Drugs, yes. Oh, now they're gonna beat me up.
That's great if you're like,
Um,
this run is the exploration run to figure out what shit we don't do in future runs.
yeah, but then that just extends the game.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like, oh, you need this character to do it. You're like, oh, let me be a new character and check out this new spot, and then you realize it's just the 4 different like factions to get to where you need to. Then you're like, oh, we didn't need to spend all this time exploring all these different factions because it all goes to the same place.
Yeah.
So that was both a good thing and a bad thing,
Fair enough.
I guess.
So real quick before we move to the next person, previously, I believe in our previous play of Prophecy of Dragons, and I believe also in Marcy case, we actually utilized the save thing. And so we played for a bit, saved, put it away. This time we really, because we needed to do this episode, we just powered through.
Punched.
So
Warhammered.
do you
Correct.
think that it would still be as frustrating if the 5 hours of this one story or 4 hours of this one story was split into 2 sessions? Do you think you still would have been over it as much by the end? Or would that break in the middle maybe have helped? Or is this one where doing that first time so many times just makes it to where you're like, I can't wait to be done with this particular?
I think it's just doing that first one so many times. And then I guess it would depend on how long it was in between those plays. Because if it's like, oh, we'll play today and then play soon, and then we can remember all those things again. But if it's long enough, you're like, oh, we need this one guy because he was important, and then he's not important because you remembered wrong. Then
Weird.
that could just make it like extend even longer.
Okay.
So So I feel like I prefer the time story games just to play it and get them each
Just power
mission.
through.
Just get each mission done.
Right on.
I do distinctly remember him being through the end of the game and his powers being useful at the time.
The Alchemist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We played through all the way
Yeah,
to the
no,
end.
no.
with
I
him.
mean, he definitely did have some useful things. You just
Yeah.
didn't want to be him. You just wanted to be all how.
Yeah. Just got real rock hard
Mhm.
on the
Get as
Juggernaut.
hard as your Warhammer.
Yeah. It was great.
Zach, what about you? What are your final thoughts for Prophecy of Dragons?
I still liked it, but I think it's my least favorite of the three.
Okay.
But if I split it into part 1 and part 2, I would say Asylum, part 2, Marcy Case, and then part 1. That part 1 really started getting on me just because we knew what we wanted. Like, we knew what to do. It was just time
Succeeding at it.
It wasn't a puzzle to solve or anything like that. It was like, well, we knew what to do.
There's some dice rolls involved.
And we were just like, all right, let's just get all the shit together. And then at the end, it's like, fucking Jeff, fucking drown. I just wanted
Drowning over and
I just
over.
wanted his dwarf to drown and then just let us.
There was
continue
no
on.
option to drown.
No.
It was just time.
Mhm.
Keep swimming.
You can hold your breath forever.
But I really liked the second part because it became more mystical and timey-wimey sort of stuff. Whereas like the vortexes, you're like you go into this room and it's Japan or it's the middle of the ocean, and that I really like the maze. Like I like that we had to buy shit, and then it's like, oh, now we know what this shit's useful for. But like I said, because I don't really care about fantasy. The first part just felt fantasy, and I was like, okay, it's just going through. It felt sort of like going through the motions and stuff like that. But I'm definitely interested on what the next one's going to be because of the finale. When you find out, it's like, oh yeah, they're taking over receptacles too. We're probably going to be seeing them soon, and like we're getting the hint of what the grander narrative of the time story arc is going to be.
Right on. For myself, I am largely in the same position as I think both Zach and Megan. I liked this one in that I continue to like time stories as a system.
Mm-hmm.
I like I like the way they use the time as a mechanic. I like the way that
I did like the encounters. I did like that you had that randomized thing
yes.
too.
So
liked
every
it.
If you got really good or really bad,
Yeah.
Something really good or really bad could happen to you.
I liked that the characters were more unique and that what you chose actually mattered more in this one. Normally, like I don't have a problem with high fantasy D&D type things, but at the same time, I think that the theme for this one didn't. This felt the most anachronistic of all of them, it didn't fit as well. Like it felt way out of place so far. Like even zombies, because it was like a weird medical breach in like a localized area. It wasn't like a zombie apocalypse. But it's okay. This lab had a zombie outbreak, and it's self-contained.
Very Raccoon City.
Yeah. And so those felt more grounded, whereas this one, because it is all of a sudden now you're in a fantasy world,
And it is literally an alternate timeline too.
yeah,
so.
and there's magic and all kinds of things,
Mhm.
and they mentioned it's like on an entirely different planet and all that, and some of that I felt kept it from clicking quite as well.
Yeah.
It did some really cool things. I liked the final boss combat. I liked the maze that we've all really praised. I do agree. I think that's one of the coolest things I've seen yet in time stories. I am definitely really excited to see the storyline developing and really finally starting to show through.
Gotta murder those Saiyans. Maybe blow up their planet.
And I like
That'll
the,
stop him.
Yeah.
And I like the midpoint checkpoint. I like that you
Yes,
play
the-
for a bit and then
Oh,
you hit
God.
a nice
Oh,
checkpoint.
God.
If that did not have that and we failed on that the last roll,
Burn it to the ground.
I would have been like, well, we succeeded. Good job, guys.
Good job, everyone.
Mhm.
Yes. But yeah, I like it. It's probably, I agree, Zach, with your rankings. I think I would, because yours was the original, the Asylum, Part 2, Marcy. Yeah, I think that's exactly where I am for ranking them. If I was to follow your splitting it into 2 games, thing. So, Jeff, what about you?
I really liked the game. The first and second portions of the game part A and part B because
Mhm.
it's, part A is longer than part B. The part B, as I had mentioned earlier, is far more interesting
Yes.
than part A. I really almost wish part A and B swapped in their length to where you would spend far less time going through the markets and the docks and stuff like that. And that part B was more challenging and interesting. I mean, part B is far more challenging and interesting than A,
Yes.
but you can get through it fairly easily.
Both times we played, we got it through it on the first time each time.
I wish that we got through part A on the
First or second
first
time.
or second, maybe third try,
Mhm.
but that part B was a little harder, or like part A took like faster to get through those parts A to get to part B, because part B is definitely where the scenario shines the most,
Mhm.
where it had more variability in all those encounters and things like that, where like once you got to I guess it's sort of the map portion where you're trying to get the key to the laser gate that lets you go through the randomized dungeon area.
Mhm.
I want to go through that randomized dungeon area more.
You're right.
I don't give a fuck about like part A and like the city and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's sort of it's an interesting D&D scenario, but after one or two times you're done.
Yeah, like you said, we weren't reading. Like we were just like,
we were just like
all right,
And you
let's-
barely even set the cards out.
Yeah,
for some
barely
of that.
putting out the cards. Like,
like,
we
we're
know
gonna go
where
here, gonna buy these things. Now we're gonna go here, fight the dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, and especially when we were doing the ferries, because it was like you had to go back to the inn. It was like, all right, so we have to roll to go to the inn. So roll. All right, we've went to the inn. Now we have to roll to leave.
we did
roll,
all these
like-
things.
and we didn't even set the cards out or
Yeah.
do anything.
No.
Yeah. But I would definitely agree that it's like, I think doing the first one or two times, and then the second one 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'd be more interesting.
And unfortunately, it's so fast to be able to get through
Yeah.
part B that you don't get to see a lot of what is in the box.
yeah, a lot of those encounters are vortexes.
Like
and
the
stuff
interesting stuff
Mhm.
that's in there. Like someone could go through this one time and be like, I never saw the ninjas
Yeah.
at Mount Fuji. Like,
Yeah.
how could I? It's like that is so much of this.
Mhm.
That but it doesn't really detract from the overall experience. It is very interesting. I just wish it was a little heavier on the back end.
Mhm.
The last scenario was super cool because you got to murder Doctor Strange
Yeah.
in World War II, man.
Yeah.
uh,
In a giant mech, and yeah.
yeah. It's definitely, like Adrian had said, where you piece together that overarching story where they're bringing other timelines into it and stuff. Yeah, but it's good. I liked it. It's I liked the zombie one the most because it had kind of like like Adrian loves the zombie theme. I am also a big fan of the zombie theme. I'm also a big fan of the Resident Evil 2 zombie theme, where it's like a major city kind of thing going on. So that had a lot of hook in me. But this one is also very good, but as my criticisms went, like I wish it was a little more on the back end gameplay wise, instead of just sort of like blow through it and we're there.
Yeah, it seemed like we were pretty all in agreement in that regard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It wasn't our favorite, but it also was still good, and we're still glad to
There's
play
definitely
it was-
moments that we really liked too.
It was most interesting in that back end.
Yes.
So, question for the table: would you, if you were recommending, like somebody who hasn't listened to the episodes, they don't know all the spoilers, they don't know where to go or anything, but if somebody's talking to you and they're like, "Hey, I'm about to play Prophecy of Dragons,"
Mhm.
how would you feel if somebody was like, "So, if you haven't succeeded in the first run by the third time, like, assuming you find your way to the tunnels, like, if you fail that 3 times, then just say you succeeded and move on to the good part?" Or like, do you think people should keep struggle bussing until they actually finish?
I mean, I guess it depends how they're struggle bussing. If they're just getting unlucky on rolls or rolling those 3 times and just like taking too much time to get there, or did they, waste time going back and forth, getting lots of money to get every single object, and then they're like, "Oh, we passed with all these objects." I think that does matter, because the objects that you do acquire in that first half do play a role in you passing the second half. So I think, it depends. Like, are you close? Like, you've gotten super close both times. Like, then just go through.
And if they just got like one glyph, and then they're like, let's just go here, look, oh, it wasn't this spot, let's leave, come back. It's like, I don't like it. I think I'd definitely agree with Megan that it would depend on how you got to that
we
end.
gamed it a
Our
little bit with our money
scenario.
situation.
More our scenario where we super failed the first time, so that was fine.
Yeah.
It's an exploratory run. But then we came
Exploratory time travel.
Mhm.
we came really, really close on the second, the third, and the fourth. We got to the well. We didn't quite get to the well on the second one. We got to the well on the third and then the fourth, where we finally succeeded. But even then, we were down to like 4 times when we came real close, playing optimally.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're failing in like the water room every time,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, just like I would say, it just comes like if you feel like
it's getting tedious.
it's completely up to the player group. If they are just like, I feel like I don't want to do, like if everyone's just like, I don't want to do that one again.
So is that something you would like? So if somebody's like, I'm about to play Prophecy of Dragons, you'd be like, hey, if you guys reach a point where you're real tedious getting through this part, maybe just move along.
I mean,
or are you hesitant?
I wouldn't tell them anything. I would just say, if someone was just like, man, we just can't get through this first part, and then I'd be like, if you get super close the next time and you feel like just because it was bad die rolls.
Like if you're at the well and you're
for like 5
trying
turns,
to
just trying to
swim for
pass
5
an agility.
turns.
Yeah.
Or like, like someone drinks it and then someone else just gets 4 bad rolls in a turn, because you could like, especially if only two or 3 dice. Like we've seen like 5 dice get rolled and you can roll all skulls.
Yeah.
And so like if you spend 5 turns at the well and you just can't pass,
then
yeah.
Because to get to the second half of the game, it's heavy die rolling. It depends on how your agility is. Not everyone's going to have high agility.
And it's not that hard of a test, but bad die rolls can definitely fuck you over in that regard.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and so it would just be if you feel like it's truly hampering your fun, then yes.
Because it's 4 successes on that well.
Something like that,
Yeah.
Like 3 and then a 1, yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that wraps up all of Prophecy of Dragons. Next up will be Under the Mask, which is a Egyptian themed one back in normal time.
And so this one, I think it'll just take us a year and a half this time to play it.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I'm in Denver for at least the next 2 years.
Okay.
All right.
So
Megan's
that's
actually back. To be fair, Megan was actually gone for like a year and a half.
Yes, I guess we never brought that up.
We've stuck with not replacing Megan. Because of how much she enjoyed playing it, and it was like part of our thing that we'd play this right around recording time. That
when we could,
although I would be curious just to see Megan look at Adrian when Adrian was like, Megan, just as an FYI, we decided just to play with somebody.
It'd be so sad.
I knew she really
I'd be
liked
so
this.
sad.
Yeah.
So that's been a big part of it. Now that she's back, she's through her training.
You played this one before with us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I played all the time stories.
We've only
you.
played with
It's
us
only
4.
us 4.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so that wraps up all of the actual review. It won't be a year and a half, but it might be a couple months. I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully.
How many more modules are there right now?
5.
More?
Yes.
5.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
3,
It's been a
kind of
while.
4, kind of 5.
So 4, technically 5. I don't know if the pirate themed one is out yet.
To be fair, there was one more when we played last time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have,
which was 2 years ago.
We have the Egyptian one.
basically?
We have the Arctic Station one. We
Yeah.
have the like Spanish-esque one. We have the like 1980s Hollywood one.
Okay.
And then we have the pirate one. That's
If it's
coming out.
anything like the Nice Guys, I'm in.
Yeah, right. Random
So-
murder.
Yeah.
So
That's me in general. So
So we've got a lot of time stories to do. So that will hopefully be a more regular thing, and we'll start mixing in more of these ruin. I don't know if they'll normally be a standalone Friday one. This is kind of a special case where I'm just going to be gone. So it's
we'll just
tricky for us to
record
do
them
something.
and then just
So be like,
release them. It's surprise when we can't like
Surprise
have all
bonus
of us.
episodes.
Yes.
Um.
Or we just like, let's take a week off.
Yeah. We'll see. So
Let's take an hour and a half off.
anyhow.
I just want to say, as per usual, this is easily twice as long as our the last Time Stories review.
Yes.
No, we're going to keep up most podcasts.
Yes, we are.
So right on. thanks everybody for listening. There's no listener feedback to this portion because, like I said, this was a
Surprise episode.
surprise episode. So there's no BGG, no emails for this. None of that. If you want to comment, there will be a post by the time you're listening to this, so you can jump over there and give us your thoughts on Prophecy of Dragons, and we'll talk about those on the next time we record after we read that.
In a while, yeah. After this one, it'll be.
That'll
after
be
this
like
one.
June 18th.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
You can also always send us emails.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can find 3 of the 4 of us at this table on Twitter. I tweet under at MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
And I retweet under Jeff_MHGG.
Megan is not on Twitter.
Just yell at Adrian, she'll hear it.
Yeah.
Correct. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram /MileHighGameGuys. Also, be sure to check out all of the other awesome members of Punchboard Media doing fantastic audio, video, written stuff like that. Punchboardmedia.com. We're still really, really happy to be members of Punchboard. They've done it a whole year and they haven't kicked us out yet.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we only got congressionally approved.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, I don't know of any other podcast that has had congressional
letters.
acknowledgement of
Yeah.
any kind.
Yep.
Let alone praise.
It was really her fault.
But seriously, thank you everybody for listening. It's been a very long time since I've said this, but if you haven't already, we do appreciate ratings and reviews on things like Stitcher, iTunes, even on Facebook, places like that. If you give us a rating and a review, you can bump us up where people might see more. And the more people who listen, the more we get to ramble in more ears, which is good for reasons.
Some people
Yes.
might want less. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, they can just not listen,
Yes.
but it spreads
As long as they download.
spread
Yeah,
spread
just download
most
the episode.
podcast
Yeah.
to as many people as possible. Most podcast needs most listeners.
Yes.
So, but yeah, thank you everybody for listening. As always, I have been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm timey-wimey Jeff.
And I'm Megan.
Thanks for joining us, Megan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
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 I just realized that I had Time Stories rated as a 6.
Should it be higher than
It
that?
should be way higher than that.
Okay.
For me,
Yeah. All right.
6 is okay. We'll play if in the mood. I feel like Time Stories is like good to very good. I
Yeah.
don't know why I had it
Yeah.
rated so low. I fixed it. It's fixed.
Okay, good.
But I don't know why.
Are
I
we
had it.
are we done?
Well, no, we
no.
just got to debate his rating for like 10 minutes. And
So
then,
Yeah,
time
Just
stories.
Shit all over him for at least a little longer.
Punchboard Media,
where we all
bring something
to the table
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.